Music Interview Corner.
Hello from the Music Interview Corner. Today I have something special for you. I'm here with NIILO from Insomnium, but we're not going to talk about Insomnium today. We're going to talk about NIILO's second book that was just published. It's called Unten Kruunu, Crown of Dreams, and it just came out on February 28th, right?
Yes, that's correct.
First of all, did I translate it correctly? Because uni can be sleep or dream, is that right?
Yes, it's Crown of Dreams or Crown of Sleep, something like that.
Mhm.
So it's a proper translation. Yeah.
Unten Kruunu continues the Ikitalvi series, Ikitalvi in Polku. And for readers who have not discovered your world yet and who are just discovering right now that you're writing fantasy novels, how would you introduce them to the story?
Well, if people know Insomnium album Winter's Gate, which is based on my short story, well, these books that I'm writing now, they are continuing that story, and they're set in the same world, and so it's a combination of actual medieval history, European medieval history, and fantasy mythical elements. So it begins as like the original Winter's Gate story. It begins as a kind of authentic historical piece about a group of Vikings raiding the coast of Ireland, and then they set out to find this mystical island in the middle of the ocean, and of course get into trouble there, and fantasy elements creep into the story. And it's about the same kind of thing that I'm doing here with the bigger story, that kind of alternative history in the beginning, where medieval Europe is in the grip of winter, so climate has changed dramatically, colder. So it's kind of these kind of ice age conditions, basically. So people from the north, from the Scandinavia, Finland area, have migrated south, and kingdoms have been shattered, and all kind of creatures in the forest lurking. So there's all kind of stuff happening, which of course is not from the real history, but are these mythical elements. So I'm combining historical fiction and fantasy here. And yeah, this Unten Kruunu now is the second part of the story. It will be a trilogy. So there's one more part coming, which I'm at the moment writing, and I hope it comes next year in Finnish, the third and final part. Yeah, this Unten Kruunu comes, I think it comes later this year in German.
Mhm.
And also the third one is coming, hopefully, in German when the time is right.
The translation rights have just been sold to Germany, right?
Yeah, and the first part has already been released last November in Germany. I've had some good feedback, and I think the seems that the translation is good. And I've got some enthusiastic emails from German fans who like the book. So it seems to be a good translation, and let's see if more translation will come. Of course, would be great to have it in other languages as well. But let's see.
And what was the most surprising reaction you got from a fan so far?
It's a good one, but our fans are so supportive, like Insomnium fans, that many people have ordered the Finnish version, even though they don't understand Finnish. So, yeah, of course, it's great. They come to have an autograph with the Finnish book. So they bought it. They can't even read it, but they want to have it, and they want to support me. And of course, it feels great. And I hope all these people can one day read the story in their own language, so they can actually enjoy the story.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I think the cover artworks also look really beautiful. So it also is nice, like, like a beautiful album artwork to have that in your shelf.
Yeah, yes, I agree. And yeah, well, the first one
Yes.
here, and the second one, yeah, about the same kind of colors, so they fit nicely together. And I think the German versions they're a bit different. So of course every publisher wants to make their own kind of covers, and they think about what works in their country. So German version is a bit different.
And of course, it's quite an undertaking to write such a long novel and also a trilogy. What was the most challenging moment for you while writing Unten Kruunu?
It's full of challenging moments every day, basically, and it's been about 6 years now since I started writing this story. And of course, originally I planned that it's a one story, one book, but it kept growing and growing, and more layers came to the stories. And at one point, my editor told me, okay, I think it's better that we split it in two, so we'll have two books. And it was a good decision. But now, last year, about in the summer, I started saying that should we maybe split this again? We're gonna have three books, because it felt like it's gonna be too long. And I think it would have been like 700, 800 pages if it would have been just like the second book, and that would be the last book. So I think it was the right call to split it again. So it's still 460 pages, and the third one is going to be something like that. I think 400 pages, something like that. So it's a long story, like way over 1,000 pages. So many difficult moments there, of course. The key decisions here in the whole process, that how will it work in the end, and the books feel like appropriate. They're not too long or too short, and the story flows nicely. And of course, each book has to end in a right way, so that it's exciting and surprising, and kind of, well, I like to have these cliffhanger moments there in the end. There's a lot of planning involved, and so many decisions you have to make, small ones and big ones, like always when you're writing. So yeah.
And what is for you the biggest difference between writing a song for Insomnium, like telling a story in a 10-minute song, or telling a story in a 400-page novel?
Yeah, it's of course it's different kind of art form, and before I started writing this long story, I was used to writing the lyrics and short stories like Winter's Gate. And in those, it has to be really kind of compressed form. Everything has to move quite fast, and when I started writing this novel, I had to adapt this different kind of pacing. Like in the beginning, I was going too fast, like things just rolled. And then my editor told me, okay, you have to slow down a little bit and take it easy here and there. So there's these breathing moments for the reader. So I had to learn this, the pacing of the novel. And with the right kind of guidance, I think we managed to find the right rhythm for this longer story.
And you also studied cultural history at the University of Turku, right?
Yes.
Did that help you to build this world?
Yes, of course. And like I said, that everything I have done since I was a kid, everything I have studied and been interested in, I can now use in this writing process. So, like, I've been a history fan since I was maybe like 5 or 6, like in kindergarten. I was already like very interested about history. And then already when I was 7, I got into fantasy, Lord of the Rings stuff, and wanted to write my own book. So, and then eventually I went to university to study history, and especially Middle Ages. So I've been able to use all that knowledge when I started planning this book. When I started writing the long story, the first 6 months maybe I spent just reading books about Middle Ages, about year 1000, what was going on in Europe. And many of those themes and even characters from real history, they ended up in my story because there was so much really fascinating things going on in real history, which I wanted to have in my story. So there's a lot of that real history there. And I wanted to make sure that like all the foods and all the clothes and the way people talk and everything feels really authentic. It tries to be authentic, even though there are fantasy elements.
And did it sometimes happen that a character developed like an own life or a mind of its own? Did it happen to you that a character was developing very differently while you were writing it? Or the character refused to behave the way you planned it in the story?
Yes, and those moments are great when you realize that you hadn't planned this, and you're writing, and the character just does something like which is natural for him or her, but you hadn't planned it before, and they have their own will and own mind. So there have been I've been writing some scene, and then suddenly I get okay, the character is gonna do that, and it completely changes it, and so it's a great moment. It's like one of the best feelings you can have as a writer, and then you feel the character is really alive, and it's like it's a real person doing things, and I'm just documenting what's happening. That's a great feeling.
And do you sometimes hear music while you're writing certain scenes, like a soundtrack in the back of your head?
Well, actually, when I'm writing, I have this Skyrim from the Skyrim game. This atmosphere, Skyrim atmosphere, is the name of the track. I have it on repeat. It's about 1 hour long track, kind of this ambient background music, which kind of, of course, it sounds like this medieval landscape. There are some bird noises and wind and stuff like that. So I'm really used to listening to that now when I'm writing. I really instantly go into this writing mode when I put this Skyrim atmospheres. So I'm immediately in the middle ages when I hear this music. So it's been important for me in the writing process. And for example, sometimes I've been writing in some weird place, like in a tour bus or in a library or somewhere, and I just put with the headphones, I put the Skyrim atmospheres soundtrack, and then I'm in the right mood and I can get inside the story. And
What was the weirdest place you ever
okay,
wrote?
good.
Because you said tour bus, and library. What was the weirdest place you've ever written a part of your book?
Well, probably tour bus or some backstage somewhere, uh, because especially when I was writing the first book and I had to finish it, and we were just having a European tour before that, like in the end of the process, and I had to actually write quite a lot while on tour. So every day I tried to find a corner in the tour bus when there was a quiet place and no one else, and I just put the headphones on and started writing. And I actually managed to write quite a lot of stuff while on tour. So, and of course, it's a bit difficult to like switch your mind during when you're touring, and then you have to switch to writing mode and in medieval mode. So it's a bit different, a bit difficult, but I think it went well in the end.
And were there ever moments where, when you were writing a battle scene, that a certain riff or melody popped into your head?
I don't know, probably not, because I'm listening to the soundtrack, so it kind of takes over. And making music is another thing. Like if my brain starts to create music, then I can't concentrate on, because it has to be one other, either making or writing scene. So
When you were writing parts of your book, was there ever a scene in your book where you thought this would make a great Insomnium song?
uh, I'm not sure, but of course they kind of.
Oh no, me too. Oh yeah, you're back. I think the internet, it might be the internet in Kotka. Sometimes the internet in Berlin is shitty, but I think today it's maybe the Finnish internet. But I think now it looks better. Oh yeah, and the recording is
I'll
there.
bring my cell phone closer if it helps. So
Ah, yeah, you
okay,
have also hotspot. Okay, yeah.
so what was the last thing I?
Oh, the last,
said.
the whole question was, it froze in the beginning. So the question was there ever a moment in the book when you were writing a scene for the book where you thought that would make a great Insomnium song?
Not really, but like this intervene because, of course, Insomnium has made music for Winter's Gate. So and like many people have commented that they have been listening to Winter's Gate album while reading my book, and I think that is probably out of all the Insomnium compositions the one album that fits best this story, of course, because it's kind of originally there was a story and then we composed music which would fit that story, so it has this cold feeling. So I think it fits really nicely. But I also made music for the yearbook, for the audiobook version. Mm-hmm. So there is this like theme of eternal winter, or what do you want to call it, that at least the Finnish audiobook version starts with that. It has kind of intro music and also outro music. I'm not sure if the German audiobook has it. I think they have it also. So I wanted to have some music made for this book that is just, it's not the Insomnium, but it's something I did for this audiobook. So there's this theme of eternal winter.
Oh yeah, and in our last interview with Insomnium, we talked also about melancholy, about all these like sad topics. What makes melancholy and sad topics such a powerful ingredient, both for metal and for fantasy literature?
Okay, so.
Yeah, you're still frozen on my screen, but I can hear you. The internet is really a bitch today. Vitun interneti. Oh, Vitu. Oh yeah, now you're back. Yes, now it looks good again. Yes.
Let's try.
Yeah, sometimes the internet is just weird. I think we have also solar storms. That might be also an interesting topic, but maybe more for a fantasy or science fiction novel. We have these like solar flares. Yeah. I think that sometimes really messes with the internet.
Yeah, let's hope it's solar flares.
Yeah, not something else. Not the beginning of eternal winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the question was, what, in your opinion, makes melancholy such a powerful ingredient for both metal music and fantasy literature?
It's a very good question, and I don't know, but I think for some reason some people are kind of drawn into metal music and this kind of melancholic stuff, and the same people, many of them also like fantasy literature or science fiction. I can't explain it why this happens, where this correlation comes from, that many of the metal fans are also like fantasy fans, but yeah, I can't explain it, like why somebody likes metal music and the other person just can't understand it at all. So it must be something in the brain chemistry that we can't explain.
Could it also be that metalheads have a special appreciation for epic worlds and tragic heroes, maybe?
Yeah, for sure. And yes, especially for these tragic, very, very dark, tragic stories with big emotions and love and death. And of course, metalheads understand that kind of stories really well. So I think I am writing a story which has a lot of emotions and tragic events and love and death, of course.
And if you could be yourself for one day, live in the world of Ikitalvi, Polko, and Unten Kruunu, which place would you go to first and which place would you avoid?
Well, I could try this Constantinople of the Middle Ages. It sounds like very interesting place, and of course, life in the Middle Ages was, of course, very dangerous anyway, in our standards, of course. But like visiting a place like Constantinople, of course, and of course Rome in the Middle Ages, but like I don't want to spoil what's going on in the Rome in my book, so it's a bit different. Constantinople and Rome would be very interesting places in the Middle Ages, and also in my story.
And if one character from Unten Kruunu would join Insomnium on stage, who would it be and which instrument would they play?
So yeah, Orpheus, the main character, the lute player, he would be the one because he can play all kind of instruments, and so he would join Insomnium on stage for sure. Yeah.
And he's also a heavy drinker, right? He could handle like a heavy partying also.
Yes, that's kind of his problem in the book. He's a heavy drinker, and he's a very irresponsible person, and his life is a mess in the beginning, and of course, then he's forced to take care of this little girl, and he starts to grow as a person. But in the beginning, he is a very irresponsible musician and heavy drinker. Yes.
Oh yeah, maybe another funny question. If Insomnium would play a concert and one of the like magical, fantastical creatures from your Ikitalvi world would join your band on stage, which creature would be the most terrifying and which creature would maybe be a good addition to the show?
Yeah, I don't want to spoil too much
Okay.
what kind of creatures there are in my book because there are all kind of surprises. So I don't say anything, but there are very terrible creatures and also some creatures which are funny. So, and I also like to write them so that reader would be surprised that sometimes something looks terrible but actually is nice, or the other way around. So you're not sure when you meet a strange creature that is it nice or terrible.
Okay, I don't know if this question is okay, but we can try. I don't know if this is top secret too. But which creature from Unten Kruunu would make the worst roommate?
Oh. Well, there are some monsters there that would make really, really bad roommates, and they would eat you right away. So I will just say like this. There are some very nasty creatures there.
And if you yourself would have to survive a winter in the Ikitalvi world, which three items would you bring to survive?
Well, some really warm big coat, winter coat for sure. Well, some kind of weapon, I think, sword or axe. Maybe axe. You could also chop wood with axe. And
Oh, but now I don't hear you at all. Oh no, vitun interneti. Yes, I think you're back. I can see your name on the screen. Yes, perfect.
yes, I don't know what's wrong with the internet, but yeah.
It's probably really solar flares. It has been really bad for the last few days, actually. Yeah. But I heard everything until X. X was the second item you would bring.
Axe and flamethrower, because
yes.
you can lit the fire and then they also scare the monsters away. So that's how you survive eternal winter.
It's a good choice. It worked very well in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. There, the flamethrower was also very useful.
Oh yeah, it's true.
And could you ever imagine that Ikitalvi Polku and Unten Kruunu would be made into a movie?
Yes, and many people have commented that they feel that it would work very nicely as a movie, and I agree. I hope that's true because I have written it the way that it would work as a movie. Maybe it has to be a trilogy or something, but let's see. But of course, would be super cool one day. Would be a movie, but I have to maybe finish the last book first, then I can dream about the movie version.
I would definitely love to also see the movie or to act in the movie. I'm an actress. Just if it would be made into a movie, you can remember that I'm also an actress.
Yeah, we have to remember this, yes.
And what would be your biggest dream for the future right now?
Well, finishing the book and making the last one so good that everybody who has read the two first parts will be like, oh, this ending was so good. I know many fantasy fans are afraid of like Game of Thrones kind of. They are traumatized by bad endings. And I want to make a good ending, a good final part, and really concentrated on that. And that's kind of the main goal for the next few years, to make the last book great one.
Cool. And speaking of endings, would you like to say something to your fans before we end this interview?
People keep asking about the other language versions, and my agent is trying her best all the time. So let's see when they become available, other languages, and it might be that I have to write the third one, and then when the story is finished, it's easier to sell it to someone, because it's a lot of work and money to translate it to another language. So it might still take a few years before more translations come up with that. But let's see. Let's hope for the best.
Yes. Thank you so much for this nice interview.
Thank you so much, and once again, sorry for the
No problem. It's not your fault. It's just
timing problem.
sometimes the internet is a bitch. Vitun interneti,
Yeah.
joskus, vain joskus.
Exactly.
Yeah, but
Exactly. Thank you very much.
thank you, NIILO. And yeah, all the best now for the second part. And I'm really, really excited for the third part.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Music Interviews Corner.